Now let's go to the rendering tab, go to out, and we have the fetch export spectra for our ocean waves and add the mantra. So this just like a test, because yes, we will add more elements to our rendering, and I'm gonna use the old school method where we will render separately each element with the force mat elements. So one element we will cut from another one. Sometimes you can use the dip output to combine the elements using the dip information side of Nuke or any tool you want. But in this case, I want to use the old method, so we will separately add the mantra node for each element. And the first element I want to add here is our ship, because this start there where we start with the ship. So select the camera, let it be current frame for a moment. Let's go to rendering, choose the physically based render. I don't want to turn off motion blur for now because I don't care about that. I will leave all this thing by default. The pixel sample 3x3, we will increase it later where we create a final render. With limits, we can reduce it like 5x5. I don't want to have such a big reflection diffraction limit. I can keep the volume step rate like it is, but it decreases stochastic samples because, yeah, I will use the volume for the ship render because there will be an explosion and it's create some interaction with the ship, but I don't need to use a very big quality for this rendering, for the render of the volumes especially. And go to objects. Let's remove the candidate object because I don't want to use this. I will use the force object, and from all those elements I need to find my ship. All we know that we have a ship import, and why is import 1? I don't know. Ship import. So inside of this node there could be a lot of different kind of information groups and elements. So which element I want to render out? Yes, we can take our all null and set the render flag for this, but in many cases for rendering we create a separate node where we put just information we want to use for the rendering setup. To do this, I copy this null object all and create an empty geometry. It should be a ship render. I'm sorry, not here, but the R ship. So with the R, I am always set the render node. So a render ship with an object merge, we can paste here our ship, so all, and you can see that it visually here. Let's set null object and press right mouse button, flag render. Or we can do this, flag render, and set an empty node. So the empty node allows us to turn off visualization from this node. I don't want to visualize nothing. I just want to know that we have something inside of render ship, and that what we will render out. So we can call this render. Get back to out, select force object, and now I can see that I have the R ship and this node where I have my ship for visualization. And I'm gonna keep all lights here. It's candidate light. Go to the first frame, it doesn't matter for now. Let's leave the preview result, choose my camera, ship, and press render. And that's what we have for now. This is our ship. Looking not bad, a little bit flat here, but I get that we'll fix it a little bit later. Have a nice red color underneath, and now let's cut those areas we don't need, actually those areas which are under the water. So go to force mat and choose my ocean. In fact, we can do the same like we did with the ship. So I can copy this render grid, go to geometry, tab, geometry, and let's say that's going to be my render ocean. Again, object merge. Let me turn off this by a moment because it's updating each time when I'm changing something. And do the same, null object for rendering flag. and the empty object for the display flag. That's how it should work. So we can definitely disable that because it doesn't visualize, there's no information for visualization. Go to out and let's select my render ocean from the list. Okay, so now let's render this again. It's gonna take some time because the displacement is always very heavy for rendering. Let me just make a little test. Let's go back to object, go to ocean surface. Let's set like 9 for the resolution exponent, the both of them. Let's resave our spectra, save to disk, and let's render this again. Well, sorry, I won't see this. What I want to do, in fact, is add render ocean to the ship. So let's name it all for now, and let's render this again. So I will render both element and the ship and the ocean. I just want to show you the difference between different exponent, what influence we have if we increase the quality of the ocean spectrum and the time rendering. Does it bigger or smaller? So what effect we're gonna have? Make a pause for now. Let's wait the result. And yeah, that's white because I forgot to change the material to our render ocean. Yeah, that's what I need to do. So let's render this again. So here how this is looking from the preview mode. I get that it will be a little bit hard to see the details in a preview. So let me just select the area for rendering. And let's turn off the preview mode and turn off the auto update. And let's look at the waves, the time for rendering and the quality of those waves with the exponent of 9. And then I'm gonna change it to some kind of 11 or something like that, and we're gonna see the difference. That's what we have now without the preview mode. That's the final render of this element. Now let's change the resolution to 11 and 11. And let's save the spectra again. It will automatically update all inside of our shader. And now let's render this element again. So I forget to make a snap last time, but you can see from this image that we have more details on the surface rather than here. And the interesting thing with the render time, because it's the same. Yeah, if we increase the quality and we render out all this thing, definitely the render time will be much bigger. But if you look at the quality of the water, it's much better. So we're going to use the 11 for now. With the final render, we can correct this thing always. All right, so now let's separate those elements. So we can leave this mantra all, but what else I want to add here is the next 3 image planes. And I want to add a few of those. For now, I don't want to add the most common useful thing is the shading normals, the shading depths, and the shading position. For compositing, I don't have a code. I guess I won't have a volume. Maybe later I will add this. So let's add the all comp. And let's add another one thing. I want to add the direct lighting. Direct lighting and export variable for each light. So now let's see what does it mean. Let's enable the full frame rendering again. Let's enable the preview because I don't want to spend a lot of time for rendering in the full quality for now. And I'm gonna show you how we can combine those elements to the better compositing. And here what we have. I render out now all components and the ship and the water surface. I will separate it for a moment. So we have a diffuse color. So the first thing is composition layers: diffuse, reflection, and refraction. So basically, if I merge those three layers, I'm gonna have the beauty. So the diffuse is showing me a color is sometimes very good for shading, for creating a nice color for our waves. If you want to change the main watercolor from like a greenish to maybe like a blue color or something like that. And reflection, there is a lot of reflection actually. All our objects in real world have some kind of reflection coefficient. So in this case, there is a lot of metallic elements on the ship, and yeah, the water should be reflective, high reflective. With the refraction, we have just the water because some elements with a closer to the water surface can have some refraction. And I like to use the combined element from the lights. So the skylight, like here, you can see that we have and reflection and lighting, and also have a sunlight. So we're going to keep those layers for both element and the ship and the water surface, but now let's separate them. Let's copy this using the Alt key, and let's name it ship. I just forget to remove the hip name here. I don't like to use it. All right, so this all, I don't want to render this. It's just like, you know, like a preview result. So I won't use this out picture, but for the ship I will do this. Inside of the ship I don't have a refract object. There is no like a glass or something. The animation camera, the output, the extra image plane, I'm gonna keep this. And with an object rendering, so I can change this 4x4 for now, but I will increase it later, I guess, even more. And again, maybe I turn off motion blur later. And yeah, with the ship I need to add the render ocean to the faucet mate, to the faucet mate, and with the ocean I will add, without interior for now, just with the wave geometry. So I'm not using for now ocean interior, and in this case we will do this later. Okay, go to out. So this is our main render node, so this like a secondary, the ship and the ocean. Let me double check this again. Yeah, the ship from the ocean and all this thing. All right. So sometimes it can be helpful if we want to, let's say, reduce the quality of the ocean. If we, let's say, if we back to this image, you can see that in fact the main wave is still the same. We will add more details just on the surface. So basically what we can do is go to object and create two different geometries. The air ocean, and let's say ocean low. What low does it, what will mean low? Low would mean that we can create two surfaces with the ocean spectrum quality 9 and 11. So if we go to save spectra here, we can say that let's create a low. So we're going to change it and get back to 9 here and 9 here. So we're going to have exactly the same settings, but with the lower quality. Okay, then I go to material and I'm going to change the ocean surface from here, the ocean surface low. They should match. And with displacement, you can see that it automatically go to spectral low, but if I change it back again, it changed here. So I press Ctrl Shift and will keep, I disable the linking. So this path will be the same, the spectral low. And this path, we should have the proper. So I go back here, go to ocean surface and remove low from here. Here you go. So now we have two different materials. One ocean surface, we're gonna use the default spectra BGO, and another one we're gonna use the same spectra but with lower quality. So what I'm gonna do now with the air ocean low, I will use that material, and again here on my out for the ship I'm gonna use the low. And the reason for this, because we won't see those small details when we set our ocean low as a force matte, because we just cut this ship. Let's look at that. Let's choose the ship and let's render this. So now all geometry underwater we will cut the geometry. All right. But the rendering should be a little bit faster because we create a less displacement quality. Maybe it's not such a very big difference for this quality 720 or with this amount of samples. But if you increase the samples, if you increase the number of pixels in our render image, it will be different. Okay, maybe when we create the final result, I will show you the difference in time in rendering time. But for now, we just set this, the render ocean low for the ship. Okay, and here. Sometimes we can even do the same for the ship geometry because we don't have a very big quality reflection from the ship. We can remove, let's say, many small elements which can cause a bigger render time or something like that. But with the geometry, it's not, with the ship geometry, it's not such, will not be such a much faster rather than the water, because the water displacement sometimes can cause a very, very long time rendering. That's what we have. But you always need to keep in mind that the difference shouldn't be very big, because if we set here like 7, it will remove many details even from the bigger ways, and this age will not match when we make compositing. So sometimes we can even render out the ship without the water and then render water with the ship extrusion. Okay, so that can be another choice. But it's looking good. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's our ship, and let's stop it. Let's make a snap. Oops, wrong button. Make a snap, and then go to the ocean. I just want to see that it's working fine for both render nodes. And with ocean, yes, we use the render ocean main with the high quality displacement. And here the water. I'm interested in this area. So you can see that our waves will have the same cut area than the ship. But the wave quality is now 11, and with the ship, the wave quality is 9. So that's how we can sometimes remove a few minutes from render time. Sometimes those few minutes can have a good deal for us.